I am EllaAradia and welcome to your Psychic Tarot Love Reading. This reading is for my Gemini, Libra and Aquarius air signs. The timestamps are below, where we'll be taking a deeper dive into your person's hidden feelings for you. This is a love reading and it's for those of you who are already connected with someone, even if you are currently in no contact with your person. This will be a very specific message, so it may not resonate for all of you. If it feels right, then it's meant for you. Otherwise, you may want to check out the readings for your other placements, so Sun, Moon, Rising, or Venus. Before we jump in, a big thank you to all of you who are supporting my channel by liking and subscribing. So if you enjoy this reading and you haven't already done that, please do. It helps the channel out a lot. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, and then you can get notified when the next videos are up. So Gemini, let's jump in. I always like to tune into the energies first, Gemini, before I start pulling any cards. I'm a psychic reader, so I like to see what comes through, what the universe shows to me. I'm feeling someone that there is a history with here. This feels like some kind of long-term connection. There is a sense for me of feeling like you're drifting apart, and some thoughts around, is it perhaps time, something feels like it's changing between you. Is it perhaps time to, each go your separate ways, but yet at the same time, there's still a lot of love for this person and there's still a lot of caring. And of course, there's attachments, there's been a lot of memories, a lot of experiences shared together. This might be someone that you travel with a lot, or you've got a lot of memories in, from holidays or different places, something like that I'm feeling. So there's a lot of history there, a lot of time shared. But at the same time, it's almost feeling like something has, begun to complete itself, because there's a feeling of, just kind of drifting apart or growing apart in some way. With your overall energies, we have the Two of Cups, often soulmate energy. This is an energy where there is a balance between masculine and feminine, where two people are choosing each other through, a place of, shared trust. Your person's view of you, the Five of Pentacles. Their feelings towards you, the Four of Pentacles. These are all the things that I'm feeling here. Their intentions towards you, the High Priestess. Someone's really holding back their deeper feelings in this situation. The Five of Pentacles often represents somebody moving on, or feeling like they have to move on, they have to let go of something. It can represent abandonment, and sometimes a feeling of, feeling on the outside, feeling shut out. Your feelings towards your situation, the Seven of Swords, deception, dishonesty, things being hidden, things going on behind your back. And that's what I was kind of feeling here. I feel like the person that you're dealing with, and of course, this can always be flipped. It's always important to remember that. But I feel that what is not happening here is the deeper issues are not being addressed. I feel like there's actually a little bit of fear around that, because I feel that there is love between you. There is a deep bond. I almost get the sense that both of you kind of know that, this might be it. It might be done. And there's a fear, I feel, to really face, what that reality looks like, without each other, on both sides. And so there's this inability to, I feel, really face the reality of what's going on here. And, this is what the energies of this Four of Pentacles is all about. That's somebody absolutely kind of closed off. They're keeping their feelings, very close to their chest. This isn't somebody that's opening up and, really talking about things. And also with the High Priestess, this is often an energy of you know, things that are not to be known yet, things being kind of hidden until I feel the time is right. It can also be a sense of a deeper connection with someone. It's often these energies of intuition, a sense of knowing. But what I'm feeling here that this Seven of Swords is related to is there might be a third party energy here. Because what I'm sensing is instead of, I feel the person that you're dealing with, instead of, you know, opening up and talking about what is really happening in this connection with you, their inability to deal with that, I feel, is manifesting in exploring, let's say, other connections. And it might be happening socially when you're out. I get the sense of you kind of seeing things. There's an intuition. There's just a sense of sometimes, you know, they're talking to somebody where it just looks like they're a little bit too interested. They're a little bit too open to that person, or they're, you know, they're entertaining that conversation for, you know, longer than it feels appropriate. And for some of you, there may even, you know, be a suspicion of, you know, an actual third party energy that's a little bit more significant. Because, you know, this is an energy of somebody, or feeling like the person that you're dealing with is kind of sneaking around, you know, behind your back. There's things being hidden. There's things that they don't want you to see. Dishonesty. And, you know, that creates, of course, you know, quite a big lack of trust. You know, the Seven of Swords is also about trust issues in connections. In your challenge, we have justice. So there is a sense of unfairness here, definitely. Because on your side, I feel like you're still, there's a part of you that's still perhaps wanting to kind of work on this. But you're just dealing with someone here who is really kind of closed off, shut down. And not only that, you know, there are these kind of flirtations, these conversations which are happening, you know, when you're out socially and things like that, which just feel kind of inappropriate. Because in some ways, you know, I just keep seeing someone observing this, and it feels a little bit like, you know, they're not honoring the relationship with you in some way, the connection, because it's almost like it's going on in front of your eyes and you're kind of seeing it and you're feeling it, that, you know, they're enjoying that attention of that person. There's like a kind of flirtatious energy or something like that. There's something in their energy that feels a little bit too open for somebody who's meant to be in a relationship. And so there is this sense of, you know, feeling like you're being done, you know, an injustice here. This is all about balance. And right now, you know, it feels like there's things being hidden. You know, when this is in the challenge, like normally this card is an energy that comes in to cut through any situation, to, first of all, to bring the truth, but also to bring fairness and balance. And right now, you know, that just feels a little bit stuck. But I do feel that, you know, things do come to light when they're meant to. And absolutely, you know, keep your eyes open there. Trust your intuition on this one. Your intuition is one of your greatest gifts, I feel. The hidden influence is the Magician. This is a card of potential, some kind of new beginning. And whether that is in this connection, or whether that's some kind of new beginning on your own for a little bit, you know, I'm not that sure. The advice is the Five of Swords, and I feel like it might be an invitation to actually speak your truth here and not be afraid to do that, even if it means perhaps cutting ties, because that is also the message of this card. It's about cutting ties with, it can be people, places, situations, in regards to this, the relationship, not being afraid to let go perhaps of something that, no longer feels healthy, loving. I feel like you're not feeling respected, appreciated, valued. And I do feel a lot of sadness here, because I do feel that, there is a history here, and this was, and still is for some of you, someone that you had down as your person, a deep bond. But, something's gone on here where you've drifted apart, and, because of the inability to really communicate and deal with those deeper issues, you get these traits or these certain behaviors which start to come into the mix, which really start to kind of sabotage things. And although, for those of you that this does relate to a third party situation, of course, that there's a sense of betrayal and heartbreak and sadness, but sometimes, these things do happen to almost force a change and a change in direction, because there's some kind of invitation here for you for some kind of new beginning. And it may involve, just being brave and having the courage to really face, the reality of, life without that person, because there is definitely something here that, is starting, I feel, to feel kind of healthy and toxic in some way. In the outcome, we have the Hanged Man, which is all about, taking a step back, taking a moment to really look at this situation, but to get a fresh perspective. The Hanged Man is all about, an external situation, and it's about taking a step back, taking a pause to really just reflect and perhaps see things in a little bit of a different way here. And for me, I feel like it's about being really honest about this connection, seeing the whole truth, which is also this, acknowledging that perhaps things have changed between you, you've grown apart, and, it might be time to walk a different path. And maybe all of this is, happening for a reason. And ultimately, even though it might be really challenging and hurtful right now, sometimes, these things happen to set us on a different path. There may be another soul connection for you, in your timeline. So let's get your person's hidden message. So this is more for those of you that are in some kind of no contact situation. So Gemini. I left before you could leave me. I wish I could share my good news with you. I knew exactly what I was doing. I hide behind material things. I love you. So Gemini, I'm going to leave that there. We are going to move on to Libra. So hi there, Libra. Do a couple more shuffles. Okay, Libra, let's jump in. Already picking up on some energies here. So let me just tune in. I always like to see what comes through. I'm a psychic reader, so I like to see what the universe shows me. I'm feeling the energy of somebody showing back up again from the past. This might be an ex returning, or somebody that, you know, you've kind of been off and on with, somebody that sort of comes into your life, goes out of your life, kind of comes back in again, that kind of energy. Or for some of you, this is an ex just, you know, coming back around again. With your overall energy is the Knight of Swords. That's a very fast moving energy. Often represents, you know, thoughts, communication, messages. Sometimes it can be a bit chaotic because it's a very fast moving energy, and it can represent somebody coming into your life very quickly, somebody leaving your life very quickly. Often in, I feel, a little bit of a destructive way. And I do get the sense for many of you that this might be the case. This is someone that you have had perhaps some kind of, you know, on-off relationship with over a period of time, that just kind of keeps on coming back around, keeps walking back into your life. And then, you know, it's almost like you hit some kind of wall, things fall apart again. And then, you know, then they're out of your life for a while, but yet the feelings are still there. And it's some kind of repeat cycle I'm feeling here. With their view of you is the Nine of Pentacles. Card of Independence. It's much more of a solo energy than anything else. It's about freedom, independence. Their feelings towards you is the Emperor. I feel like this is someone who is trying to hold on to a certain lifestyle here. They might be someone who's a little bit controlling, and so they keep coming back around, and every time it comes to a moment to move things to the next level, I feel like that's when things are crumbling and falling apart here. And your heart's really in there. And that's the destruction that I'm feeling here, is that your heart is, you know, really getting kind of damaged and hurt. Their intentions towards you is the Sun. I just get the energy from that they are going to keep on showing up. They're going to keep on coming back around. I feel like they know what you want. Let's just get your feelings. So we have the King of Swords, and I feel like that's how you see them. You know, someone who, because we've got the Emperor here, you know, this is a card of, you know, stability. Often represents, you know, someone in a place of authority, you know, stability. But it can be someone also that is quite controlling. And I feel like you may be dealing with someone who is difficult to read emotionally with this King of Swords here. And this is someone who I feel is, you know, a deep thinker, someone that perhaps almost tries to kind of process their feelings through their thoughts. Someone who makes decisions on, you know, the facts of a situation rather than, you know, following their heart. Because to me, what I'm feeling here is their heart is guarded. And they might hide behind, let's say, material things here and career. And, you know, this feels like someone that really kind of has a big career focus. They throw themselves into their work. And this is someone who works on their schedule, I feel, and there's not a lot of time for, you know, relationships, love, you know, things like that. It feels a little bit to me, it's when they feel like it, on their terms, on their schedule. And I'm feeling that you are needing a little bit more from this person. You're needing to feel loved and emotionally, you know, supported and held. And you're very much dealing with someone who I feel is quite guarded in terms of their feelings, their heart. It feels to me like there's a little bit of a fear to open up their heart. I feel like this is someone that's been wounded in the past. And so you've got these feelings, these patterns, sorry, of control and, you know, them trying to perhaps hold on to some kind of independence, holding on to that sense of freedom. There's a fear to lose that if they step more fully into this connection with you. In the challenge, we have the 10 of Wands. You know, this is something that I feel you're feeling like you're carrying at this point where, you know, it's become a burden. You know, this is a card of, you know, feeling like you're carrying too much, responsibilities, burdens. Could also be in relation to your person, like especially if that's in regards to career and life goals. And it's getting in the way of the connection here. You know, this is someone who, you know, has a lot of responsibility and tends to, you know, carry a lot on their shoulders in terms of their career, you know, not making sort of time and space for other things in life. But it does represent, you know, perhaps an ending of, you know, a challenging time like that. But that's the block. That's the block that, you know, I feel is preventing things from really moving forwards between the two of you. And so that's leaving you, you know, feeling unseen. It's all about them, their needs, and very little about yours, I feel. But at the same time, you know, I do feel like this is somebody that, you know, you both see the potential there. But every time it comes to kind of moving that to the next level, you're hitting this challenge where they haven't dealt with their wounds from the past. I feel like there's been a past hurt, a past betrayal, something like that has really wounded their heart. And there's a fear to open up. If I open up to love, you know, what if, you know, I lose that love, there's a betrayal, I get hurt again. And it's something that is undealt with, which I feel is affecting the connection here. The hidden influence is the Knight of Wands, and I really don't like the feeling of that. I feel like you might be dealing with someone who is a player. So you've got the Nine of Pentacles, independence, freedom, you know, somebody wanting to really sort of, in some ways, hold on to a single life. It's like they're quite identified with, you know, maintaining that independence. And with the Emperor there, that's that energy of control, you know, things going at their speed, on their terms. And someone who might be saying, you know, saying all the right things that you want to hear, but at the same time, perhaps telling you that they just don't have time and space, you know, for a relationship because of, you know, work or life goals or whatever that is. And part of, you know, this independence, we've got the Knight of Wands, which is the hidden influence. So the hidden influence is, you know, something that is affecting the connection that you might not be aware of. And I feel that whatever that independent lifestyle is, it may also include the person that you're dealing with entertaining other connections. keeping other doors open, other possibilities other than, you know, the connection with you. You know, this is often known as the player of the tarot. And so, you know, it might just be, you know, keep your eyes open here, Libra, because I just feel like you might be dealing with somebody who isn't perhaps, you know, being entirely honest with you. Trust your intuition on this one. Your advice from the universe is the Lovers. This is a card of choice. There's a choice to be made here. And it often represents a crossroads. You know, you may have come to a point. You know, this person may have, you know, recently come back into your life with this Knight of Swords, left your life again, that left behind, you know, a lot of emotional destruction, damage. And you've reached a point of choice here with the Lovers. And this is usually a relationship choice, or a choice that, you know, at the very least does affect a relationship. And, you know, this is about being really honest about this situation here and seeing the whole truth, you know, not just the potential. You know, sometimes we just get really hooked up on, you know, the dream, the potential. And it's so important to, I feel, really see the reality here of this situation and make a choice which truly aligns with your values and what you really want in a partner. But sometimes it's hard to let go of that dream, of that potential, you know, because to let go of it, you know, we may have to face something inside of ourselves. But always remember, like this, you don't have them anyway. So I think that's always something that's really important to remember, because this is someone who's not stepping up for you. They're not giving you that further commitment, even though they know that's what you really want. So you don't have them anyway. So, you know, this is so important to make a choice from a place of truth and doing what is best for you. In your outcome, we have the Wheel of Fortune. This is all about divine timings, orchestrations, and it's usually when there's some kind of change that happens. Sometimes it can be a sudden change. And in this case, it might be another one of these destructive moments where this person's kind of left your life, left all this kind of damage, carnage behind. But there's an invitation here to actually take a different direction. And it is about trusting what's unfolding here, because the Wheel of Fortune, it's all about divine timings, orchestrations, where sometimes, you know, the universe comes in to set you on a different path. Sometimes the universe moves somebody out of your life so that you can walk a different path, because ultimately further down the road, you know, there might be a new person for you, somebody else that you are meant to meet. So just make sure you're seeing the whole truth here, and, you know, and make your next choice from your heart, from that place of truth. So let's get your person's hidden message for you. So this is more for those of you who are in some kind of no contact situation here. Libra. You don't know how hard it was to let you go. I feel like that's you. I wish I had treated you better. You and I were too young. I mean, that's more about your person, I feel, just not really being ready for, you know, a deeper, mature relationship. I couldn't let you get close to me. And that's their guard. That's that barrier that I was feeling with them. Sometimes I lay awake thinking about you. So Libra, I'm going to leave that there. We are going to move on to Aquarius. Hi, Aquarius. We do a couple more shuffles. Aquarius. Okay, let's jump in. So I always like to tune into the energies first, Aquarius, before I start pulling cards. I'm a psychic reader, so I like to see what the universe shows me. I feel like some of you are stuck in some kind of friends with benefits situation here. I feel like it's something you've agreed to. Thinking that perhaps you could kind of be in that way and just kind of see how things go. And even though you've kind of told yourself that you're going to watch where your heart goes in this, I feel like your heart started to fall in. And, you know, that usually happens. I feel like this has been going on for some months or some weeks for some of you. And I feel like you're getting a lot of mixed signals from this person. I feel like you're dealing with someone who they're saying they don't want a relationship. This is just a kind of friends with benefits arrangement. But at the same time, they're in touch a lot and they're sharing a lot about their life all the time. And almost, you know, kind of showing up a little bit like how a partner would. But at the same time, you know, that there's this guard up. And so I feel like it's kind of kept you, let's say, a little bit hooked in this situation because, you know, there's all these signs and these potentials that you're kind of seeing there of they're sort of, you know, they're being one way, they're showing up in one way, but they're still saying, you know, that this is only, you know, this isn't a long-term connection. It's just a friends with benefits thing. Overall energy is the Page of Pentacles. Sometimes this does represent somebody stepping up, someone moving out of their comfort zone, being willing to grow. It can be somebody actually showing up physically, you know, putting themselves in your space. It might be connected to the challenge though. You know, there could be a challenge here around, you know, somebody moving out of their comfort zone here and being willing to actually grow, you know, with a view to the long term, you know, because that long-term vision is already in this card, but it involves, you know, some kind of stepping up in some way here. So with their view of you, we have the Ten of Pentacles. That's a long-term commitment. You know, that is seeing the potential. That is the energy of, you know, two people putting that work in, building that strong foundation together, making that commitment to each other with a view to long-term. They see you as being that potential person. Their feelings towards you, the Hierophant, I like that. You know, there's a lot of potential here. Absolutely. I mean, the Hierophant is, in a love reading, it's about the kind of connection with somebody who you share a lot of the same values. You know, a very kind of, yeah, very like-minded person, the same values, very, very similar beliefs. And, you know, this is a card of commitment. And really building, you know, these strong foundations for the future, for the long term. You know, these are the kind of connections that last because, you know, they're built on these very strong foundations. Their intentions towards you, the Six of Pentacles. And I don't get the greatest feeling from that. You know, this might be for some of you, someone who's giving to two people. You know, the Six of Pentacles speaks of these dynamics of equal give and take in a relationship. Now, it may not be for all of you that this is someone that they are giving to two people. It may be an intention to perhaps step up and put the work in. You know, maybe things have been a little bit one-sided. Maybe you have been, you know, sort of investing a little bit more. They've been holding back. And there may well be a desire to actually, you know, really balance that. You know, especially with the Page of Pentacles there, that's often the energy of somebody stepping up. Let's just get your feelings. Your feelings about them is the King of Cups. And that's how you see them. That's how you're feeling about them. And of course, you know, the gender can be male or female, so don't kind of get hung up on that. But, you know, I feel like you see them as somebody that, you know, can be the kind of partner that you really want. You know, the King of Cups energies is somebody who can really connect deeply emotionally. And I feel like when, you know, when you feel into them, I do feel like you see that potential, that they do have that ability to really step up in that way and connect very deeply, but they've got some kind of guard up, I keep feeling. Feels like they might have been hurt in the past. There might have been somebody that, you know, they gave their heart to in the past and they were either rejected, you know, cheated on. There's a sense of betrayal. And, you know, and I feel like it really wounded them. And that's the sort of the thing that they're protecting. But when they do open up, they do have that ability to, you know, really connect very deeply emotionally, to, you know, hold that safe container. Let's see what's in the challenge. The challenge is strength, facing fears, insecurities. That's their block. That's what's kind of holding things back from, you know, moving to that next level here. They're struggling to, I feel, really face inside of themselves, you know, what it is that's really holding them back. Because ultimately, I do feel that they see you as a potential, you know, life partner, long-term partner here. You know, you get on great, you're very like-minded, you share a lot of the same values, beliefs. And I feel like they want to commit. But there's all this fear holding them back, the fear to open up. Like, what if their heart gets hurt again? But deep down inside, if they can get past that, they have so much to give. They do have so much love to give. The hidden influence is the Two of Cups. This is a soulmate connection. And very often in these soulmate connections, we're often teaching each other things. And, you know, there is a potential to have something really beautiful here between the two of you. This is two people, you know, equally sharing, you know, they're choosing each other through this energy of mutual trust. And very balanced, very reciprocal energy, you know, masculine, feminine energy is very balanced here. And it often represents soulmate energy. But in order to have this, it often involves, you know, growth and healing, you know, on both sides in order to be able to get, you know, to this Two of Cups. And that is the challenge that they are currently facing. And yeah, the question is, you know, how much longer do you kind of hang in there in the hopes of things changing? Because it's all going to depend on whether they can actually get past, you know, this barrier, these fears, these insecurities, which really come from, you know, something in their past that they haven't fully healed from. But there's an opportunity here. There's an opportunity for love, for a deeper love with that Two of Cups. Your advice from the universe is the Knight of Cups. I feel like that is perhaps about you taking control in this situation. You know, sometimes we can kind of sit back and we can wait and hope that things will change. But what I'm feeling here is, you know, your heart's getting hurt. You know, the longer this goes on, the more invested you're getting on your side, the more your heart's falling in. And it may be a moment to, I feel, actually just put your cards on the table and express your true feelings and what you really want. You know, the Knight of Cups, you know, knights are always, you know, it's in pursuit. You know, it's about perhaps, you know, making an offer, expressing your feelings, saying what you really want in this situation, and just being brave and kind of putting your cards on the table here, regardless of what the outcome is, because, you know, you have to be ready if you're going to do that. You have to be ready to face anything, because it's all going to depend whether they have the ability to have the courage to be vulnerable and open up to you. But like I always say, you know, the way it is right now, you don't fully have them anyway, because they're not fully, you know, giving you that commitment just yet. Even if they see that potential, you know, they're still struggling, you know, through whatever insecurities this strength card is about here. So you need to be ready. You need to be ready if you do that. If you do kind of just be completely honest, open, and let them know how you feel and what you want, you have to be ready for, you know, that to go in any direction. So only do that if that feels right for you. But that's the guidance here. Because really, if something isn't going to shift soon, the longer you stay, the more your heart's going to go in there, and the more you're going to get hurt if, you know, if things don't move to the next level. In the outcome, the Seven of Pentacles, this is often a card of just taking a pause, taking stock. It's a card of really looking at what you have and reevaluating things. And that doesn't have to be a negative thing. It often represents a period of time. You know, so, you know, there may be a moment of, you know, a little bit of a pause where, you know, if you do kind of speak your true feelings and what you want, you know, it might be for some of you that, you know, there's a little bit of a pause or a break where the person that you're dealing with is just needing to really reflect on things before kind of making, you know, their next choice. But that could also be you. You know, this could also bring about, you know, a reevaluation and making any adjustments, you know, that you need to do moving forwards. This is about working out, you know, where you truly want to put your energy moving forwards, into who, into what. So let's get your person's hidden message for you. So the hidden message is more for those of you that are in some kind of no contact situation here. Aquarius. We need to let each other go. You are the best thing in my life. Such a conflict, such a conflicting energy. I regret lying to you. You came closer than anyone. It's time for me to heal now. And that could be that moment of a pause. Doesn't mean it's the end, but it just feels like there's a little bit of healing that might, you know, that kind of needs to take place with the person that you're dealing with there. So Aquarius, I'm going to leave that there. If this reading resonated, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, no matter what comes through in a reading, moving forwards, always trust what feels right for you. So thanks so much for being here, and I wish you a great month ahead.